The anime opens with a dragon flying toward a kingdom's capital. Upon arrival, it asserts its presence by landing on the castle wall. All the mages had gathered to attack the dragon, unleashing a powerful spell called Radiant Lux, or something like that, I think. However, the attack doesn't even scratch the dragon. The mages lose all hope as they watch it charge up and unleash its powerful fire breath, incinerating the mages and burning down several houses. Fear of death grips the kingdom's people. However, the dragon rises back into the sky, making it clear this was only a warning. We then cut to the forest. We're told this place is full of beasts and spirits, until one day a mother dragon decides to take shelter in one of the forest's caves. The reason? To watch over her egg. The next day, the dragon covers it with dirt to hide it, while also warming it with her fire breath so it stays warm and protected while she goes to find food. That's how her hunt begins, and she manages to spot some wolves. But just as she's about to swoop down on them, a massive spear pierces her, thrown by the kingdom's knights. That same night, a pregnant cat finds the cave. However, she's no ordinary cat, but a forest creature called a Katesith, cats known for their great intelligence. The cat had chosen this cave because it was warm, and also because there were mice nearby. Over time, her kittens are born, as is the dragon's egg. A small red dragon emerges from the ground. The cat helps him out and, seeing him trembling, approaches him with a meow to reassure him there's no danger. Because of the closeness he'd had with the egg, the dragon also wanted to stay with her, so the cat adopts him as one of her own babies. She tells us she'd already raised kittens from other cats before, and even young from other magical beasts, so she wonders what this little dragon is going to become. Time passes, and the day comes when the cat must teach them to hunt mice. Here we're told that Katesith cats aren't just intelligent, but also use different types of magic. Their power shoots out from their tail, something the little dragon also tries, but without success. A little later though, he learns to use his wings to lift off the ground. His siblings are amazed watching this, until, without meaning to, he breathes fire out of his mouth and, not yet having mastered it, falls back to the ground. None of his siblings suspect anything odd, and they celebrate anyway. The cat then remarks that he seems to use a different kind of magic than the rest, a way of putting it so he doesn't feel different, since she knows perfectly well he's a dragon. That's when the cat hears something, along with her kittens. They hide to watch. It's a group of adventurers. The kittens ask their mother what these are. She replies that they're humans. She explains that they call this forest the beginner's forest, and one can imagine they come here to hunt certain creatures. She adds that humans are very peculiar beings. Some are very kind, but others are extremely cruel. Some even possess abilities that make them stronger than they are, and she points out that for humans, Katesith represent a fantastic prey. The kittens, frightened by this revelation, decide to memorize their scent so they can avoid them. The cat watches this with great pride, knowing they'll soon be able to leave the nest. However, a few days later, a magic circle appears beneath the mother. The kittens grow worried as they watch their mother's body start to fade, but she calms them. This is a summoning spell, meaning some human must be calling her. All the little ones cry, begging her not to leave them. But the mother leaves calmly, knowing they're great hunters and will be able to live on their own, asking them to help each other when needed. It doesn't matter if they get separated one day, since this forest is full of their kin, who will be kind to them once they recognize their scent. And with that, she says goodbye to her children. Yes, not even 5 minutes had passed before the protagonist had already lost his mother twice. Oh well, life goes on. After some time, the siblings had grown up, and all of them left the nest, except for the dragon, whom we'll call Drag. From that day on, he hunted alone, and although he could live by himself, he never got used to being without anyone. Sometime later, he sees his sister coming back to the cave with another cat. This one doubts that Neko is really his brother, but confirms it through the scent they share. It turns out his sister had only come to give birth, which leads Neko to take care of his nephews, teaching them to hunt, just as his mother had taught him. They too eventually came across humans, and Neko advises them to never get close to them. Time passes, and his beloved nephews leave the nest as well. Neko finds himself alone again, until another cat shows up, sharing the same scent as his siblings. She tells him she's about to give birth, and that her father had told her she could come to this cave, since there was a cat with big wings there who could help her. Neko cries hearing this. since he now understands his siblings never truly abandoned him. Several years pass, and Neko finally reaches adulthood. His magic had grown so much that he could now speak with the spirits of the forest, who then reveal a great truth to him: he isn't a cat. This revelation shakes him deeply, and it's with great sadness that he goes to tell his nephews. They too are surprised, but don't think much of it, preferring instead to ask him to keep teaching them magic, which fills Uncle Drag with joy. Then comes the day of his major personal growth, because it wasn't enough to have lost his mother and discovered he was adopted. While flying over the region, he sees wretched humans skinning cats for their fur. Furious, he burns them all without hesitation, then asks the spirits why they did this. They explain that humans don't hunt Kate Sith for food, but for their pelts. This answer enrages Neko even further. If it had been out of hunger, he could understand it. After all, one has to kill to survive. So he immediately heads to the kingdom to issue a warning. He introduces himself as the Dragon Protector of Cats, warning that if they continue this, he'll burn the entire kingdom. The mages prepare to attack, but just like at the start, it does nothing to him. Neko burns part of the kingdom. Fear of death grips the population again. But Neko was about to continue when he spots a cat placing itself in front of a little girl, a cat carrying the same scent as his mother. He then remembers what she'd told him about humans, that kind ones exist too. Thanks to this, the townspeople are spared. But Neko makes one thing very clear: he won't let anyone kill the forest cats. Nor will he forgive it, unless it's for survival. Whoever thinks of killing a cat should think first of the Dragon Protector of Cats. With that, Neko returns to the forest in the blink of an eye. Months pass, and one night, at the royal family's castle, a young prince is being dressed by his maids. However, once they leave, the boy sneaks off to the garden to practice magic. We see him wave his wand while repeating, "Balls ignite," a fire spell he plans to use on a leaf. After several attempts, he gives up, frustrated, saying it's impossible. But then he notices the cat sitting beside him and starts petting it. Yes, who wouldn't? We're told here that this young prince was born with very weak mana, which would force him to work much harder than others to hope to inherit the throne. He tries again, and this time manages to fully burn the leaf. Both he and the cat start celebrating, until the young prince realizes and asks where this cat came from, wondering if it's from the forest. Saying this, he remembers what his tutor had told him. If a forest cat ever got lost in the castle, it had to be brought back with the utmost care, because if they hurt or killed one, the dragon would return, and this time, he'd incinerate them all. As soon as he remembers this, he pulls his hands back from the cat, asking if it got lost, or if it can find its own way back to the forest. The cat meows in response, and simply leaves. The next day, the young prince spends his time wandering the castle, hoping to see the cat again. He can't find it anywhere, but while looking for it that evening he finds it sitting, waiting for him. So they keep each other company while he practices magic. The young prince spends several minutes trying to recreate the previous night's spell, until, after several attempts, he finally succeeds. From then on, the cat accompanies him every night for his magic practice, and after spending so much time together, a deep trust builds between them, to the point where they start talking to each other. One night, they even each bring food to share, discovering in the process that the cat has an affinity for wind. However, all of this had been observed by the prince's tutor, so the king, his father, summons him the next morning to ask a few questions, making sure the cat isn't being held against its will. Once he confirms his son hasn't harmed it, he decides there's no problem with them continuing to see each other. But just as he says this, the kingdom's bells start ringing, announcing the arrival of the Emperor Dragon in the town's streets. Neko lands, looking around for the cat. That's when the little cat appears and starts speaking in the Kate Sith language. The people nearby are left confused, not understanding a word, so they ask if anyone can speak that language. One of the soldiers raises his hand, claiming to know a little, which lets us understand what they're saying. The cat tells Neko he wants to teach magic to a human child. Neko replies that he now understands why the cat had been coming to town so often. He also asks if this human child is the kingdom's prince. The cat confirms it is, and that he practices every day without much success, noting that unlike theirs, human magic is very unstable. Neko shouts at him to stop immediately. Has he forgotten that humans are dangerous animals? His nephew reassures him, insisting this child is different, since they're friends. That's when the young prince appears, standing behind the cat. The cat introduces him as his friend, which reminds Neko of the time one of their own defended a human girl. The cat then asks him if he doesn't remember that it was Neko himself who said friends should be cherished. This catches Neko off guard, but the cat continues, saying that if he teaches the prince magic, and he becomes a great king, maybe he'll be grateful enough to decide to protect the cats. Neko agrees, but wants to speak with the king first to get his approval. We then see him cast a spell that transforms him into a cat, and without further delay, he orders the soldiers to inform the king that the dragon who scorched his soldiers wishes to meet him. Quite the show of authority. The guards are stunned to see he speaks their language, but immediately follow the order. We then cut to the throne room, where the king kneels before Drag. He introduces himself as the dragon protector of the cats living in the forest. The king explains that apparently his son has been spending time with one of the cats under his protection. Neko replies that it's one of the young ones he teaches to hunt and use magic, and that, for some reason unknown to him, a friendship formed with the prince. He adds that, for his part, he has no problem with the cat teaching him magic. The king asks, respectfully, since this is an advanced secret of sorcery, teaching it to his son would be equivalent to teaching it to his entire kingdom. Neko replies that it doesn't matter. After all, he himself learned to use it thanks to the spirits, meaning anyone able to speak with them could access magic of that level. The king is astonished to hear this, knowing that magic granted by spirits is a highly coveted art, capable of upsetting the balance of power between kingdoms. But seeing that Neko has no issue with it, he feels a certain admiration for the Emperor Dragon. Hearing this title he'd just been given, Neko grows curious, since he's really just a fire dragon. The king explains that this name means Emperor of Dragons, a title humans reserve for dragons of great power. Neko finds this title far too pompous for him, and suggests they simply call him Neko from now on. After all, he was raised as a cat since birth. The king laughs and agrees, promising they'll address him that way from now on. So, for a long time, the prince learned magic thanks to the cats, and once he became king, he taught it to his people. Over time, he had children, each accompanied by different forest cats who taught them magic, played with them, and kept them company. Since then, the kingdom's people never harmed the cats again, establishing a way of life in which humans protect the cats in exchange for lessons in magic. Meanwhile, in the forest, the dragon continues teaching hunting and magic to the kittens. Before continuing, let's go back to the moment the mother cat was summoned. Upon waking, she finds herself in front of a young girl at a magic school. The girl is in shock, not expecting the spell to actually work. The teacher congratulates her for summoning a Kate Sith and asks her to explain what just happened. The girl turns out to be very timid, prompting the cat to compare her to Neko. Yes, what a good mother. It turns out that today's lesson was about summoning one's familiar, and summoning one compatible with you normally took several days. Yet she'd succeeded on her first try without understanding how. The cat is struck by the girl's lack of confidence. Unlike her own children, this one still depends on someone. The fact that she summoned her isn't a coincidence then, and she decides to take her under her wing. She asks her name. The girl replies, Ann Rossa, whom we'll call Ann, who takes quite a while to realize the cat can talk, and ends up fainting. Later, once classes end, the cat takes Ann to the training camp. There they practice an ice spell, but what Ann produces looks more like an ice cream treat than an actual attack. The cat understands she meant to launch ice icicles, so she demonstrates, using her own element, electricity, noting that this doesn't injure, just paralyzes. Ann doubts she could do the same, since lightning magic is, in her view, far too complicated. The cat tells her it's not that hard, and repeats the example. Ann asks to try again, and this time manages to produce sparks, realizing she can do it. The cat explains that humans rely on incantations, having her say a phrase, which lets her cast her lightning with much more power, filling her with joy. Yes, this cat really is an excellent mother and teacher. The next day, the cat wakes Ann up for training. From now on, the goal is to get used to magic, exhaust all her mana, and make it grow through depletion. The first test goes wonderfully, but it's not over yet, since next comes the Ice Needle spell. The first attempt goes just like before, so they must keep training even without mana. Since those days, Anne has started eating much more, the training exhausting her considerably. We also see the cat following her everywhere. A student even asks if familiars are allowed. The teacher replies that Anne has special permission, the Kate Sith also helping with her research on raising magical beasts. Anne's friends admire how impressive her familiar is. In the afternoons, the cat has free time to go eat, but unfortunately for her, there are very few mice in the area. Instead, there are carbuncles. Unlike mice, these are smarter and more agile, but their main feature is their gem. According to the teacher, these creatures hold a great amount of mana and are quite the delicacy for the cat. We return to Anne, who keeps training to exhaustion, but now collapses much faster, since she'd already used magic in class. The cat then teaches her the new spell she's just created, but Anne is saved by the lunch bell, pushing the lesson to the next day. We then see the cat talking with the teacher, explaining that Kate Sith mothers only look after their kittens for about 2 years, this species of magical beast leaving the nest faster than others. She knows this from having raised many species of magical beasts, noting she'd let many kittens go before they even reached adulthood, species that might resemble their beloved little dragon, all originally from the beginner's forest. The teacher points out, however, that there are many forests with that same name. After this, the cat leaves, delighted to have learned more, until one of her worst days arrives, bath day. Because unluckily for her, Anne turns out to be very skilled at water spells. Yes, what convenient timing. She can even make it lukewarm without needing a wand to heat it, but the cat doesn't like this one bit, since Kate Sith aren't used to bathing daily. Anne replies that it doesn't matter. With her special permission, she has to attend her classes, and like everyone else, she needs to be clean. But to the cat, all these baths feel more like revenge for the strict training she puts her through, while for Anne, it's simply her way of saying thanks. Later, they go to the library. The cat tells us that before bed, Anne teaches her to read human letters, which makes it easier for them to understand each other and grow together. One of those days, the summoning circle malfunctions, accidentally connecting to the demon world. Several creatures emerge, and the teacher orders the students to use their best spells. Anne steps to the front and eliminates several with the ice needle, until a major demon emerges from the circle as well. The cat greets him casually though, as if nothing were wrong, recalling she hadn't seen him in a while. It turns out this demon had also been raised by the cat. He tells her he'd heard she'd been summoned, immediately went to check the forest, where he met Drag, recognized as his brother by scent, and told him how shaken everyone had been by her disappearance. However, the cat feels it's best to leave them be for now, and introduces the demon as one of the magical beasts she raised. And since her son is here, she suggests turning the training ground into a dungeon. But her son had only come to close the portal, deemed far too dangerous. The cat asks him anyway, as a motherly favor, mentioning in passing that she's raising another little girl. Yes, this cat really does have an impressive number of children. But her son notices a detail about his mother. The increase in her mana has given her 2 tails, which simply extends her lifespan, quite convenient for continuing to watch over Anne. That's how the school ended up with a dungeon, which later produced many talented mages. Several years later, students discuss their new teacher, the Ice Storm Witch, wielding an ice spear and a lightning whip, always accompanied by a 2-tailed cat. It turns out Anne has become a teacher at her old school. The cat goes to greet the teacher, thanking him for continuing to look after her son. That's when the demon appears in his cat form to say hello, his mother having thought about going to find him, but not wanting to go down into the dangerous dungeon. He gets scolded for calling her old, and quickly whisks her away to avoid embarrassment, a major demon having a reputation to maintain after all. Yes, a mother remains a mother, no matter what. We then return to Anne, introduced as the new teacher, who turns pale under all those stares. The cat comes back to talk to her, explaining that she'll teach them well, and that they can always ask her questions if something's unclear. This gives Anne confidence, and she introduces herself to everyone, hoping to get along with them all. In the following days, we meet a student who's struggling to get past level 17, despite having very good spellcasting. Anne explains this is due to her lack of mana, but that it can be increased, mentioning she herself had less mana than her student at that age. This surprises them both, and Anne tells her about her own exhausting training. The next day, that same student goes out to train very early, but finds Anne already waiting for her, having planned to personally oversee her training. The cat encourages the student by showing how clumsy Anne's ice needle used to be, and how she still became a court sorceress despite that. With that, they begin training, exhausting her mana completely as well, day after day. Soon, 4 more students join her. Sometime later, this same group completes the dungeon, congratulated by the major demon, who only appears in his statue form, disappointing the students, who'd been promised his cat form, a rumor spread by his own mother. Having no choice, he ends up turning into a cat. After that, the teacher, now headmaster, tells Anne that this year's students are especially promising, largely thanks to her. Anne thanks him warmly, and proposes a new teaching method, letting students take on real guild missions, in other words, actual combat practice. This idea requires the kingdom's support though, so Anne takes charge of convincing the royal court. Her idea gets approved, and the students go on missions accompanied by adventurers and soldiers. In case something goes wrong, they're to send a signal to call their teacher. That's exactly what happens at one point, and Anne teleports there immediately. Everyone comes back safe, some bring back items, others nothing at all, and some get scolded. But for Anne, what matters most is the experience gained, and the fact that they come back alive, which fills her with joy. Sometime after, the students graduate. The academy now equipped with a dungeon and real guild missions. The school went on to train a great number of talented mages, leading to new contracts being signed. Back with Neko, the cave has become home to the forest's Kate Sith, and he's now nicknamed the Winged Uncle. Every year, couples come there to give birth, but one of them arrives with a cat whose paw is injured, because of humans wanting her fur. This sparks Drag's fury, and he heads immediately to the kingdom to demand justice. On the way though, he comes across several Kate Sith who have already captured the humans responsible. They explain to the Winged Uncle that these are the ones who hurt the pregnant cat. But Neko scolds them. Instead of seeking revenge, they should be worrying about the injured cat first. However, the humans had threatened to send the forest cats to a distant kingdom. Hearing this, Neko points out that killing them could spark a war, which would be far worse. So he orders them to be sent to the nearest town to be punished. Yes, they deserve that and more. The cats agree, then ask him what he plans to do himself. He replies he's heading back to the cave to help with the birth. Back at the cave, the cats tell him the couple is about to give birth, and that the injured cat's paw has also healed. Her mate explains he used magic to heal it, but Neko scolds him, since that energy causes kittens to be born prematurely. Such bad luck. The cat apologizes, saying he was worried, but that's when another cat announces she's also feeling contractions. Neko assumes she was affected by the first cat's magic, and calms them all by bringing them into the cave. The most worried are the cat's mates. Shortly after, the kittens are finally born. The young cats already there watch the newborns tenderly, and Neko reminds them that they too were like this barely a year ago, adding that they grow very fast, and that if they don't learn to hunt or use magic, they'll get made fun of once they're grown. Other cats take the younger ones to the Red Cliff to hunt, while Neko stays behind at the cave. That's when a newborn lunges to bite Drag's claw, hinting he might become a great hunter one day. 2 months pass, and the kittens must now eat solid food. The mothers head out to hunt with their mates, while Neko stays to watch the little ones. That's when the clawed kitten comes to play with him, and his parents notice that the way he stands resembles a human, suggesting he might one day become a prince's companion. Neko tells us that ever since that alliance, cats have gone to live with the rare good humans, something he finds quite reckless, which is why he tries to convince the clawed kitten to stay living in the forest. Without success, the kitten being far too busy biting his claw. 6 more months pass, and the now grown cats finally learn to hunt and use magic. Neko teaches them transformation magic, letting them grow bigger or smaller at will, amazing all the cats, who get distracted by his own feline appearance. He explains that hunting means catching your prey, using claws and fangs to kill it, then eating it, the prey, understandably, preferring not to be devoured. And that goes for everyone. Without warning, he transforms into a threat, so they understand they need to learn to flee if they're the prey. Or, if the situation calls for it, to defend themselves or counterattack. A moment when they'll discover just how useful magic can be, cats having specialized in electric magic for generations. That's when he notices the clawed kitten has gone still. Later, after a long while, he finally reunites with the kingdom's prince, who has become the very first human to find Drag's cave. For the younger cats, the situation feels strange, having never seen a human before. According to what Neko had told them, they were supposed to be terrifying. One of the cats explains that this prince is a friend, and that there are all kinds of humans. This instantly makes him fascinating in their eyes, making them want to visit the human kingdom at least once in their lives. Drag, who's been hearing their growing desire to go there for a while now, almost regrets having agreed to the prince's visit that day. Poor Neko. But anyway, another day, the hunting routine continues. This time though, they venture much further, making the cats more nervous than usual, except for the clawed kitten, still as carefree as ever. After a while, Neko hears a noise, and orders them to climb a tree. 3 adventurers find themselves surrounded. Neko explains, these are human adventurers, but the kittens notice how different they are from the prince, both in their sturdy build and the things they carry. Neko explains that humans, lacking claws and fangs, carry weapons that serve the same purpose, and that some of them also use magic. One kitten asks if all humans can use it. Neko confirms yes, though some are more skilled than others. They all watch in amazement as the adventurers defend themselves using spells, leaving the little clawed kitten particularly impressed. When they return, they can't stop talking about how impressive those humans were, especially the clawed kitten, who keeps going on about the human who gathered magic on a tree branch. That evening, as they get ready for bed, the little one keeps talking about it, forcing Neko to finally send him to sleep. The next day, that same little cat is woken up to say goodbye to his older siblings, who are about to leave. Heading out, he hears Neko ask them what each of them plans to do now. 2 of the cats say they'll head to the human kingdom, while the last one wants to carve out his own territory. Neko wishes them all good luck. Before they leave, the adult cats say their goodbyes to their younger siblings, telling them to listen well to Uncle Neko. Then they leave without further ado. How fast these little cats grow up. Watching them go, Neko tells the little ones that they too will soon need to prepare for their own departure the following year, so he'll now teach them to hunt. Scene change. Back at the nest, the young ones witness the birth of more siblings. This stirs up some nostalgia in the older ones, and Neko himself remembers that Claw and the others were exactly the same just a year ago. Days pass, and the newborns start taking their first steps, even proving capable of hunting, gradually catching up to the older ones. Claw and his little group decide to prove their experience by taking on a fearsome beast. One afternoon, they head into the forest and come back with a massive bear. The younger ones are thrilled seeing them, showering them with questions. They answer proudly that it wasn't very hard. Drag, however, doesn't share that opinion, reminding them that when it comes to bears, just like humans, the rule is to hide and flee. They were about to get a severe scolding, but the older cats step in, scolding them ever so tenderly instead. How could anyone stay mad at those little faces? Word of this eventually spreads throughout the whole feline community, with some even calling them quite impressive. A year goes by, and it's finally time for Little Claw and his siblings to leave as well. Neko repeats the same ritual, asking about their goals. They all answer the usual: have kids and stay here, or head to the human kingdom, or carve out their own territory. But when it's Claw's turn, he confesses he wants to become a human adventurer. Yes, you heard that right, a human adventurer. The others are naturally stunned, given that he's a cat after all. Claw explains he wants to travel and see different places, mentioning he'd trained extremely hard to make that dream come true. He then uses his magic and transforms into a human, right before their eyes. The other cats and Claw decide to leave quickly, before Uncle Neko has time to scold them. Some climb onto Claw's head to accompany him to the city, seen off by the little ones staying behind, while the adults laugh at how strange this departure was. Neko thinks the same, while hoping with all his heart that they'll live full and happy lives. And so the season's troublesome youngsters departed, each destined to lead a feline life all their own, unmatched by any other. But of course, that's a story for another day.